Hello and welcome to my channel, Family Tech, where you get all the tech tips, news, and information to help you understand and manage the technology in your home. If this isn't your first time here, welcome back. Today we're talking about the Bark phone. Now this is another kids-safe smartphone that has some really great parental controls built right into the phone. So I'm going to go over all of those settings and everything you need to know about this phone in case this is something you are looking to get for your kids. I will mention that Bark has sponsored this video, so thank you very much to Bark for supporting this channel. As I mentioned in my last Bark sponsored video, I do have a Bark subscription. I use Bark every day with my own kids, so I am a fan of the product. I never will accept any sponsored reviews from any products that I do not believe in. So all of the thoughts and ideas about this device are my own. I will give you some cons on the device, so this will be a very balanced review, even though it is sponsored. So thank you again to Bark for sponsoring this channel. So first I want to mention a few details about the Bark phone. So the Bark phone itself is a Samsung A13. So that means you can hop on Amazon and get a case for a Samsung A13 and it will fit this phone. That also means it's going to have a great camera. It is going to be Android based and it will have all of the kind of Samsung bells and whistles. So you could pair it with some Samsung Buds or anything like that. So it is just a standard Samsung A13. There are 3 price points when you purchase this phone. So one of the pros on this device is that you don't actually have to buy the phone. The phone kind of comes with this service. So you can pay $49 a month for unlimited talk and text and no data. So that means it will only work for any of the internet-enabled apps when the device is on Wi-Fi. So there is not a data plan associated with that $49 a month plan. The next option is a $59 a month plan. So this gives you, again, unlimited talk and text, but it will also give you 4 gigabytes per month of data service. And then finally, we have a $69 a month plan that does have 8 gigabytes per month in data service. So if you want to conserve your data service, make sure it's on the Wi-Fi as much as possible, but when it is away from home, it can utilize that 8 gigabytes per month. So the way to manage the phone is basically just through the standard Bark app that you already have installed if you're using Bark for monitoring other devices. But you will see, as opposed to some of these others that just have the monitoring, you can see there is a new option here for the Bark phone. So if you tap on that, you have all of these options here in order to manage the phone. I will say one frustration I had with this management app is that once I go into these settings, I can't get back to this screen without going all the way back to that home screen. So I'll kind of show you how it goes. So if I tap on the App Store here, I have all of these options. I can allow or disallow the App Store. And require app approval, and I can not allow them to remove apps. But if I hit the back button, it's either just going to close the app, or I just have to go back to this dashboard, scroll all the way back down to the Bark phone, and open these settings again. So that was the only main frustration I had, is the difficulty in order to get back to these settings. So you can go into here, and here is the texting options. So you can see here, we have enabled texting. If I block texting, so we'll get into these default time frames, but we're going to go ahead and just block it for all of these time frames and then close. The other thing I can do with texting is I can go into the contacts and require contact approval, and I can block specific contacts, or I can add a contact here directly. I also love that I can add an alarm to their device. So if I set this alarm, it's going to go ahead and set the alarm on this device and sound. The other thing here is this Enable Settings app. We have it set to no. So if you come in here, you can see that they cannot open settings. And this helps to prevent them from getting into any of the areas of the phone where they can try and bypass these restrictions on the device. So as I mentioned, if I hit this back button, it's going to come back to here. If I go back over here to rules and devices, I don't have that screen that I liked, so I can come back here to this dashboard and go back to this Bark phone and I get these settings. So again, these are areas that we've already looked at Here's the texting. You can enable, disable the camera. You can enable, disable the web browsing. Sorry, we've accidentally hit back. And then time limit. So this is what I really want to talk about. So time limits, you can set up these different time frames. So if I go into schedule, I can add another schedule for the day. I can set it to school, bedtime, or free time, and I can put in those time frames for that day. And then you can see in a typical day, we've got default time, free time, default time, bedtime. So in any of these areas, you can open up the rules for that area and you can see what apps and websites are allowed during that time frame. You can go into the device settings to see what is allowed during that time frame and any exceptions. So if I don't want to allow web browsing, but I want to allow like a very specific URL, we can put in these exceptions here. And then I can copy these rules. If I have any other kids that have a Bark device, I can just copy those rules over so I don't have to keep setting them and setting them. So, and then finally we have this pause button. So this is going to go ahead and pause the device. So let's pause it for 15 minutes. So we go ahead and pause it. It's going to take a couple minutes and you'll see on here that just removes all of the apps and you can't access any of these apps except for this calling app so that the child still has a way to contact any emergency services or contact you in case of an emergency. So let's go ahead and try and call the Family Tech business line. It's going to say, hey, we've detected that you want to call this. So this is Family Tech. And that's going to send an approval request to the parent device. I have Test wants to approve this request, so I can allow it and then confirm. And then they will be able to contact that person. And they'll get a little notification here. This is good news. You can now chat with this person. Another really great thing about this device, so right now messages are disabled. So we're going to go ahead and enable texting. Now you can get to these messages. And the really great thing is it's going to not allow them to delete these messages. So any texts or anything that are sent, there's going to be a permanent record of them right here on the phone. Another thing I would like to see is the ability to just see all of these text messages in the admin app. However, I will be notified in the admin app if anything is concerning, just like if it was on a standard phone with Bark enabled. So you can just go to your standard Bark alerts and you'll see this test Bark phone. And you can come in here and see I texted, yo dummy, yeah, what's up? And you can see the things that were flagged as concerning. And it will also show you any Google searches that are also concerning. The biggest downside for me is the fact that Google Family Link accounts do not work on the Bark phone. So you can see if you allow the App Store here, it's going to have you sign into Google Play. So it's telling you here that the Google account, you have to have the email and password. It's a personal account, so not a school account, and it's not a supervised member of your family group. So if you do have their Google account in your family group with a Google Family Link, so say they have a Chromebook or something like that that you like to manage with Google Family Link, you will need to create a separate Google account for this device because unfortunately, or you'll have to unsupervise that. So then that would leave the Chromebook open to be not supervised. So you don't want to really do that. So you can create a different Google account specifically for that device. But again, so that's not going to allow you to log into something like Canvas or any school accounts or anything like that because it's going to be locked down for that phone. So my final thoughts on the Bark phone is it is a really great device. You can make it as locked down or as open as you want it to be. So some of the other kid-safe smartphones, there's no social media, there's nothing like that. So this one, you can allow those types of things, but you can also make it pretty locked down with those time frames and everything like that. You can really lock it down to its basic feature. The other plus is that you don't have to pay for hardware up front. You pay for the subscription and that's it. You get the hardware as part of that subscription. Now, there are some downsides to that as well. So if you lose it or damage it or anything like that, you will have to pay either to repair it or to replace it. And that depends on how long you've had your subscription. If you've had your subscription for over 2.5 years, then you do not have to pay to replace that device. However, if you cancel your subscription prior to that, you will have to turn your device device in. So, make sure it is protected and you are keeping good care of it. But what's also nice about the subscription is that it comes with a Bark subscription. So you can install Bark on other devices. So if you have older teens that have a regular phone, you can install Bark on those. So you can install Bark on other devices that your child owns, if they have a tablet or if they have a Chromebook or things like that. So that fee covers the subscription for all of the devices in your home that are able to install Bark. A couple of the downsides is that yes, it does have full access to the App Store. You can turn off the ability to download apps, but it does have access to that. So there's no curated App Store. So you're going to have to do your own research on the various apps if that's something that you want to allow them to install. So I would be very careful about the different apps. Make sure there's not messaging in the app or things like that. So you would have to really pay attention to what apps are being installed on the phone because again, there is not a curated app store. As I already mentioned, the other downside is you cannot add a Google Family Link account to the device. And then finally, yes, there's no full message monitoring. It's going to just flag you like regular Bark does. So I do like that. So it gives them a little bit of sense of privacy, but it will flag you for anything concerning. When I do get those notifications and warnings, sometimes I like to dig into the context instead of grabbing their phone and finding the context there, which you can do. You can't see that remotely. So you can look at what the context is before you are able to sit down and chat with your child, which can be a good and a bad thing because I do like to sit down if I see something concerning, and get the context from your child instead of reading into the context on your own. So there really could go either way on that one. But that's my rundown of the Bark phone. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, thank you to Bark for sponsoring this video and supporting my channel. If you want to follow me on social media, I am at Family Tech on all social platforms. Go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time.